And thank you. In many cases, it's, as you get into advanced levels of real estate, you hear a lot of stuff where people say, oh, you don't need a good credit, you can, but generally for the 99% of us, you do need good credit to get started. So it's a very important place to start. Andrea, did you want to just start us off by sharing a little bit about Kean?
Yeah, so thanks everyone for joining us. And, absolutely, Kemba and I are passionate in general about real estate investing. And naturally, as we've said, credit is a really important aspect of being able to build, yourself, whether it's in real estate, buying your first or own, owning a property, but even in just building a business and building your adult life. So we've decided to do it together as a family. And so Kemba and I share the same surname because we're married to brothers. We've been building wealth independently initially, and now together as a family, because obviously there's a lot of strength in doing it together and making sure that, we share with each other the opportunity to, use each other's financial resources as well as each other's strengths. And so I would encourage you, especially people within our community and women and immigrants, Black people, to do it as a collective. Right? We've done a lot of things as a collective. Why not build wealth together, right? So, and of course, we're in real estate, so we don't see a lot of women, myself and Kemba, that are, doing the real estate aspect. A lot of the times when we see partners, it's the men, the husband, the male counterpart that leads the charge. And so it's really refreshing for us anyways, to see that ourselves, and there are several other women that do it as well, that focus on building wealth through real estate. We feel that wealth building is significant and important to the Black community because traditionally we're not known for building wealth or even expecting to receive an inheritance or the transfer of wealth from the generation ahead of us. So we want to change those statistics and that data and that discourse, right? Of course, it gives us huge confidence, I think, when we see that we're successful and that we can teach others to be successful in real estate as well. And so we love that. And we know that everyone needs to feel that they're accomplishing the things that they set out to for themselves and their family. And so we hope to share not just the secrets of how to build the right credit, but how to build wealth in real estate with you through our journey as investors. You can join us in our Facebook groups, our Instagram, and continually learn. We are experts in many areas. We were first experts for ourselves, learning how to, buy and hold real estate and then tenant those properties and manage those properties. And so really this business with Kean Real Estate came as an extension of all those things that we did for years. And now we're teaching others through our education, our coaching, our memberships, and our different social media platforms that we are on, along with podcasts, how to gain the right expert advice, not just from us alone, but from our partners and individuals that we have worked with, such as realtors and mortgage brokers and accountants and the like. There's others as well. We have primarily focused on long-term rentals. Kemba and I, we bought and held on to our properties, buy and hold, but we've also held tenancies for years rather than days and weeks. But we also find that there's huge success in short-term rental. And so we teach people how to use that strategy as well. And most importantly, is when you buy properties is finding the right tenants. And so we teach as well as we will help you tenant those properties so that you can have success and, not end up with the nightmare stories that you hear or the tenant from hell experience that absolutely can happen, but we try to minimize that experience so that your experience in real estate is and landlording is a successful one. And we provide consulting on how to build your units or your property to make it as successful in terms of generating income today and wealth building for the future for your family. And of course, I think that with all of that said, you can gain confidence.
This is just a quick video. You know, even during the pandemic, we were helping some folks, you know, find their family a legacy. And so this is one of the properties that they invested in, and they're building as a family. You can see father and son here, and it was just a really proud moment for us to see one of the families that we work with doing that, and we just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and this family has been doing it for themselves, and now they're transferring. So it's, you know, gaining the knowledge over time for themselves and now transferring that knowledge as well as that financial wealth. So instead of waiting until death, they're doing it during their lifetime. And you can do that as well. You can help your children and teach your children how to do that. So we, Kemba, did you want to cover this?
Yeah, so in terms of experience and with real estate investing, we've done, you know, many different types of mainly buy and hold, like Andrea mentioned, meaning we've bought and we've kept the properties, but, you know, we've done anything from duplexes, sixplexes, fourplexes, triplexes, and condos, condominium purchases across Canada. So we have some property in Edmonton. We've purchased and now sold property in Kingston, London, Ontario, Cambridge, Kitchener.
BC, because you recently
Yes,
sold that.
we did do a purchase out in BC, and so we try to share that, you know, you can do a lot of real estate investing. You don't have to necessarily do it in your backyard. You can go further out, especially, you know, when we think of some of the urban centers like Toronto, the prices have escalated to a point where it just feels unimaginable. But it's not that. It is still possible in the GTA, but it's a lot harder. But there are parts of Canada and parts of Ontario even that you could, you know, venture to invest in, and we can show you how to do that. And we can talk more about it. This session is mainly talking about one of those foundational principles, which is credit, but credit is important to overall building as you go along. Andrea mentioned it earlier. We do have a Facebook group that we share lots of information and opportunities in. And so we'd like to invite you from this session. If you would like to join us there, you just have to click on the link, let us know how you heard about us, and you let us know what you know about real estate. But you come in and share your experiences, ask questions, and even if you're not a landlord yet, we would be happy to help you, because if you want to get to be a landlord, your learning would start now, and you would start to ask questions and just be around other like-minded people. And so that's what, if you're welcome to join us there.
Yeah, I think community builds the strength and the confidence that you need. And so why is credit important? I feel like as an adult, it's like our adult report card. It really does. It acts as a ledger of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And lenders, financial institutions, and big companies, even landlords and owners look to your credit to determine what kind of person you are, how you handle your payment history, how you conduct yourself with respect to carrying and having loans or lines of credit, credit cards. And so it is your credit, it is your adult report card that kind of gives everyone, including you, a good gauge of who you are and what you're, where you are. So it's one of the most powerful 3-digit numbers that you'll ever have. And you probably already know, and we'll show you the range. The lenders and any institution out there, they're going to look to, if they're trying to determine whether they'll loan to you or offer you something that they have, such as their home or the mortgage or a loan for a car, they're going to need this 3-digit number.
Mhm.
And I've identified several places where it will impact you. I mean, down to your insurance. When you're getting insurance on a car, they're looking to see what your score is and how, that is an indicator to them of how trustworthy you are, or how well you take care of paying those that you owe, or managing the different forms of credit that you use. I find that the better your score, and I'm sure that you do too, the better your score, the more they're willing to loan to you and even give you favorable interest rates or favorable products. I tend to get discounts the stronger my score is, right?
Yeah. So yeah, and as Andrea is mentioning, in terms of work and business, we find that employers do sometimes check if you're starting, especially if you're starting in a financial industry, or other industries do use your credit score as a check of reliability. If you're going to be in any sort of role where you may be handling money, or responsible for money, or even responsible for information, they do use your score. And so building a credit doesn't just impact your ability to get a credit card, it could impact your ability to get a job.
Get a place to live, like
And
for
get a
rental.
place to
Because
live.
as owners, as business in the industry ourselves, we look to people's credit to determine whether we are willing to offer that place for rental to you.
Mhm. As well as Andrea mentioned, getting a car loan. There are some places that will, say you don't need good credit, but again, you pay for the privilege of having poor credit and getting a loan. So what they do is they charge you a higher interest rate, because that is how they mitigate the risk. They charge you more upfront, and basically most of your payments are going towards interest versus going towards actually paying down the debt. And so that's a cycle to keep you indebted when you don't have good credit. So before going out and making purchases like vehicles or houses or anything like that, working on your credit actually makes it more affordable for you to do those types of investments, whether it's buying a house or getting transportation like a car, or any sort of vehicle. And then in terms of wealth building, we talk about partnering a lot. Andrea and I have partnered to buy real estate. There's ways to come together as a community, to come together as friends, to come together as family. But there's one thing: if somebody wants to partner with you, and there's thousands, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on the line, you should be comfortable to say, yeah, sure, I can share my credit with you, like my score and so on. And that tells your friends, your family members who may want to partner with you to say, oh, this person manages their money well. You may know somebody for years and you may know nothing about their financial wealth or health. And just asking for a score is a very straightforward way of finding out how well are they managing, and are you comfortable maybe relying on them as a partner. And as we talk about partnering, that's one of the things that you can ask for from your partners, is to learn their credit scores, and you have to be in a position to share yours. And so important to build for that reason.
But someone's still having challenges signing in. I don't know if this is always the case. Does Marcia, do you have a link that you can share with me? Because I don't even know how I got in. I just pressed something.
Andrea, I was trying to troubleshoot. I think from the sign-in perspective, some folks have to actually sign into Zoom. And once
No,
you've signed into Zoom, then it'll allow you into the session. But I think they're having trouble signing into the
I
Zoom.
think so too, because I think it was the same for me. That's okay. I'll let her know.
Okay. I'm sorry, it's hard to help troubleshoot while we're in the session.
That's okay. No, this person, usually it's the same sort of thing. So she's the me who just doesn't understand how to do this stuff. And I totally understand.
If you just sent her the Zoom link, she has the option of opening up the Zoom app or doing it online. She's just as you use the web version.
Zoom link. I think that's what I tried to send her just now. Thanks, Marcia.
No problem.
Okay.
I can't wait till I have someone who could just do it all for me. Paula needs this. She's like, Andrea, help me.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
continue,
sorry.
Kemba. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. In terms of why lenders look at credit, so scores are important information to help. It's kind of like, now where you have a Facebook profile and people want to know who you are before they meet you. They may look up your Facebook profile, or they may look up your LinkedIn profile. It is the same concept where all institutions who use credit as a value are looking to just see that profile, how you manage your money. It gives them an indication of what is their risk of loss if they do business with you or extend credit to you. It tells the story of credibility, character, and reliability. And it also helps people, it helps the lenders decide how they're going to lend to you. It's kind of leverage. So anyone who has good credit, lenders use it as leverage, because you don't want to pay a bill late because you know that that's going to impact your score. And so anybody who is aware and sensitive to their credit score will be constantly monitoring and making sure they're doing the right things. And that just keeps them in the lender's good books, and it keeps the credit flowing if ever you needed it. And it just keeps all doors open for you when it comes to using credit as an indicator. So in terms of about the score, so the scores range from about 300 to 900. So you could have a score as low as 300 or as high as 900. And I've never seen a 900. And we've talked about this before, where, people ask us, what's the highest score you've seen? I've never seen a 900. I've seen, 880, very close, but 900 is very hard to attain. Your credit score indicates your level of credit worthiness. There are two major credit bureaus in Canada, so Equifax and TransUnion. As you go south of the border, there are other credit bureaus out there, but in Canada, we mainly use Equifax and TransUnion. And they basically have the banks and any financial institution, as you borrow from them, on a monthly basis, they will, in the back end, they'll have reporting that goes to the credit bureaus, and the credit bureaus will report back to them to indicate what score you have. And all these institutions across the country that you may interact with are all reporting into these two credit bureaus, and they give you a score. They calculate their scores slightly differently, but they both have a calculation. They also may have different calculations of your score. So if you were to go today to go check your credit bureau on Equifax, you could have, say, a 750, and on TransUnion, you could have a 650. There are times where it's significantly different, just because maybe one of the institutions is reporting to them and not the other. And so in terms of managing your credit, we always advise people to check both types of credit, so Equifax and TransUnion, to determine that. And which institutions? So utility companies, auto dealers, credit unions, banks, mortgage lenders, and now landlords as well. So now landlords have an opportunity, one, to check your credit, but also to report on your credit. And so if, say, you're making payments late to your landlord, that could potentially impact your credit as well. The two reporting agencies are, I would say, equally important, because you never know, as a person who needs to check your credit, I may not check both bureaus. And so you never want to say, oh, well, my credit is really good with Equifax, I don't know what happened to TransUnion, I'm just going to leave it. You want to be able to maintain both, because they could impact you in different ways at any given time when somebody's checking your credit.
But it's okay to also point out to an institution that from my perspective, because I do track mine through my bank, and the one that I track it through only focuses on one over the other. And it's fair to say that, hey, when I'm looking at it, my score looks fine and things look good. So that I don't leave it up to the lender alone just to say, hey, Andrew, your score has dropped to this and we're not satisfied. It's like, oh, sorry. I do have two reporting agencies, and if they're reporting different things, it's hard to manage and change them over time quickly. It takes time to change them. So I'm just saying, from my perspective, Kemba, I've had it where the score showed substantially different, and the lender was fine that it was it was adequate on Equifax over TransUnion.
Yes, absolutely. So it does depend, but it is good to be able to manage and fix if one isn't showing the right numbers. In terms of determining your score, there's several factors that go into determining your score. So your credit payment history. So if we think of how far back, when we check on any one of the platforms that allows us to check our credit, you can go into your full report and they'll show you maybe about 3 or 4 years in the minimized report of your monthly payment, and you'll see rows and rows of check marks if you're paying on time and you're all good. And immediately, if you ever go late for a payment, it'll show an X on that payment, and that immediately drops your score from that one late payment, and multiples will continue to drop your score from there. The length of your credit history. So we sometimes find that young people who are just starting out, or anyone who's just getting credit for the first time, so for example, new immigrants, their credit score may be low, not for the fact that they're managing their money poorly, but because they don't have a long credit history. So credit history is important. Current debts or credit. So how much of your debt have you, like how many debts do you have? So if you have 10 credit cards, if you're using all of them to the fullest extent, that also goes into the calculation of your score. The frequency of new credit. So they do also calculate when you have, say, a lender or anyone checking your credit, and there's something called a hard and a soft check on your credit. So when there's a hard check, it's basically saying that they were going to show an inquiry. That's what you'll see. How many inquiries are there on your credit? And so that inquiry will also affect your score, not significantly and not for a long time, but multiple inquiries in a short space of time will drop your credit down. And then over time, if you don't have any more, it'll start to go up again. And the credit utilization. So on top of considering how many debts you have, there's also a calculation that will affect your credit in terms of how much of your available credit are you using? Are you using 10%? Are you using 50%? Are you using 90% of your credit? And so that also goes into calculating your score. If you're considered overutilizing or highly leveraging all your credit, it will impact your score. And also the mix of credit that you have. So that meaning, do you have a mortgage? Do you have a credit card? Do you have a phone? Do you have a loan? Or do you just have one credit card? So depending on the mix of credit that you have, it will also impact your score.
And just something I learned yesterday in my live with the mortgage broker that came on with me is it's not possible to create credit and having a credit score without having an actual credit card or some method, like someone who pays and does everything via cash business is not going to create and build a credit history or credit score. So you do have to pull out, a credit card in your name, have a mobile in your name, like, having something, a mobile phone that's in your partner's name or someone else's name and a credit card in someone else's name. It doesn't build your credit. So you have to have things in your name to build credit. And I just never ever thought that as an adult that you could live without building credit, but it's possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is definitely possible. We've met, I've met someone who, sadly, he didn't build credit over his life. He was in his retirement years and he was considering buying a building. He was considering buying an investment property so that he could live in one of the units and rent out the other, and that would help him to pay for his retirement, and he would take care of it because he was a handy guy. But he was facing a significant challenge in that he hadn't built credit over his lifetime. When he was younger, he had a student issue where he didn't resolve his student loan, or he had a debt that was outstanding. And it really impacted him at that point where he was now he had lots of money because he had accumulated savings and so on, but because he never repaired his credit and he never used it over his life, he was tending towards cash. When it came to needing it, it just wasn't there, and it was a challenge for him to now start building credit in his retirement years. So even if you don't maximize, and use all your credit cards and so on, that's a good thing, but you should still like use it periodically just to keep it current and to build a history and to continue to have a history. Use
That's
it and pay it off, no problem. Use it and pay it off.
Yeah, sometimes I, even for my, and I would encourage you to encourage your, young adult children to do the same, and teach them healthy ways to build their credit by signing up for a credit card in their name once they're 18, keeping a low balance, or a small balance rather, a small limit, and then managing the balance so that it can be paid monthly as it arrives, just to start to build that credit and build it in a healthy way.
Yes. And so something else that helps to make up when we think of which factors impact our credit differently. So in terms of your payment history, that is huge. Your payment history is one of the biggest factors that will impact your credit. So make sure that, if there's one thing you're looking to do when you're maintaining your credit, is to pay on time and make your payments, because as you can
And
see
make
that.
the minimum payment if that's all you can do, rather than no payment at all.
Yeah. So exactly. If say you have a bill coming up for a debtor and you're like, oh, well, I can't pay the whole thing, I'm just going to wait until I can pay it. That's not the right choice to make. You should actually pay at least a minimum payment, make a payment to it. So even if it's not fully paid off, it is showing that you're contributing to paying it down. If you don't make the minimum payment, that is an immediate, very huge hit on your credit. So make sure you're making payments.
You can also automate the payments. If you're like me and you forget, or you have a lot of things going, I just eventually said, you know what, can I just automate it? Make it pre-authorized debit. Just so that, I'm typically paying my full balance, but if I forget, at least the minimum balance gets paid on time, and then I can, go back later and pay the difference, because it really is important to pay it on time and at least the minimum.
Mm-hmm. You know what gets some people now too, and it got me actually one time recently, is that sometimes, now we're using credit to make payments in general. Like we're using it to automate our telephone bill, our various utility bills. You're just going to put it on your credit card and you're going to pay it. And sometimes we even set up charities to collect money from us if we're trying to contribute to a charity on a monthly basis or something. And when those automated payments, you don't actually physically take your card and make the purchase, the transaction, it sometimes slips your mind that, oh yes, there is something automatically going to go on my card. And so to have an automated payment set up, it saves you from having to miss a payment just by mistake, not by intention or carelessness. It's just, life gets busy, and maybe you were late to do something and you thought, oh, I haven't taken my credit card out this whole month. Yes, but there is still a charge going to go on that card, and you should still be making the minimum payments.
And even when you don't make charges on them, I had a card that I wasn't using for the longest time, because I, have other cards, and I didn't even know that someone else figured out how to use it. And it wasn't in my household, by the way, it was actually fraudulent. And eventually it came to my attention because my score was dropped and hit and so forth. And then I realized, hey, wait, this card, it's in my safe. I don't even use it. And it was, actually being billed. And so you have to, I actually canceled it. I was like, I just can't manage and do all this. It's like, it's not that important. I canceled it because I just, I shouldn't have a card that I put away and not really using. And all of a sudden, someone else figured out how to use it out there in the world, and it cost me a little. So it's really important to, I like pre-authorized debits. So And like Kemba said, I have my donations monthly. I have my gas, but anything I can automate, I automate. So I also automated my payment for my credit card.
Mhm, yeah. So the other thing that affects your credit would be new accounts. So anytime you're shopping for credit, it's called, that will impact your credit. So you want to minimize how many times somebody will put a hard hit on your credit or a hard check on your credit. At the same time, if you're doing it for a purpose, there's a reason. So for example, when you're shopping for a mortgage, sometimes there may be several people who will look at your credit just to assess your ability. That will come back. You can see it's 15% of your, like, it contributes about 15% to the score. Length of history, so history is only 10%, and the types of accounts are only 10%. And so, cumulatively, all these things go into determining your score, and you want to be able to manage all of them to help build a good and strong, healthy credit score. As we go along, guys, if you have questions or we touch on anything that you have a question about, please feel free to drop a question in the chat and we can definitely address the question as well. Okay, so why do people get bad credit? So lots of reasons, lack of knowledge. So, you're not paying attention. I've met many people along the way who are like, yeah, I know it's there, but I haven't checked in several years. And it's
Oh my goodness, you should be checking multiple times in a year.
Yes, and so we'll touch on that in a little bit, but lack of knowledge about your credit and knowing why it's important and knowing what it's used for can also impact you having a poor score, just because you're not doing anything bad, but just out of not knowing, you don't treat your credit in the right way and your score goes down. Negligence is part of that, so you may know about it, but you're busy, life is busy, and you haven't automated things, so that's a little bit of negligence. Criminal behavior and history. So if ever you have a situation where you've done something that a lender or a business feels is fraudulent, they will tag your credit, and that will also cause you to have a poor score. Identity theft, Andrea just mentioned, she had a credit card where somebody just, either somehow got the number and was using it. Now with us being able to make purchases online, that's something you have to be really protective of. Afi, yes, we do absolutely suggest sites like Borrowell, and we'll cover that.
Taking forever to type it in here. Borrowell and Credit Karma.
Yes, for sure. In terms of difficult circumstances can also impact your credit. So divorce can really hit your credit because, now you're splitting up assets. You're potentially trying to figure out how to, run a household on just one income. And that can be times where, other bills, medical bills, and so on. If you let bills pile up and they were hard to manage, COVID is a prime example of everybody not expecting what came at us. And I'm sure there were people who had difficult times with their credit during this year, but it's absolutely possible to rebuild it. And definitely bankruptcies are something that will remain on your credit report for about 10 years. Some people say 7, but I think it's 10. It's a long time, and it will definitely significantly lower your score, potentially down to below 500. And when we say below 500, that's really, really poor credit. Your report will show comments on it about the bankruptcy and any consolidations or anything that you do in relation to writing off debts or not paying debts or reworking your entire credit portfolio. It will impact your credit score. That being said, though, you can recover from even bankruptcy. You just have to want to, and you have to do the work to make sure you're monitoring it, make sure that you're paying the bills on time, because bankruptcy is a moment in time. It does look bad. It isn't good. There are many reasons for bankruptcy, why people may choose to declare bankruptcy. But if you're serious about wanting to change that circumstance and have a better trajectory going forward after a bankruptcy, you just have to do the work in terms of just making sure if someone is willing to leave you with a credit card or get your credit card after bankruptcy, you take that, you make, like we were saying, for the young people to get a small credit card, pay off the balance every month. And if you continuously build up after an incident like a bankruptcy, you can eventually, after you've cleared off some debts, come back from a score like that. It does take some time, but you can definitely do that. Fear of credit due to lack of information, traumatized.
I think it's
of
just a
loan.
statement. I didn't see a question in that.
Yeah.
Comment.
Yeah. So I'm trying to say that name, but it's a website. But
Yeah,
it
it looks like a
true.
website.
It is true. Those factors do definitely affect people. And, sometimes it's very emotional when it comes to your credit, where you're feeling like, I've done something wrong. I've not managed well. It's embarrassing to say to family members or to say to friends, hey, my credit is poor. I don't know what I've done, or I know what I've done and I want to do better. But, part of, why we're even giving this talk is that we want to have that conversation that even if it is poor, it's something that you can work on, something that you can fix. But if you leave it, if you ignore it, if you sweep it under that proverbial rug, and you just figure, you know what, it's bad, I can't do anything about it, it will continue to be bad, and it will continue to be an anchor around your neck, weighing you down. So we just recommend that take that leap, order your credit report, and start taking a look at it. It may feel like it's monumental, but we definitely can say that it's possible to correct it and fix it. So in terms of what's looked at when creditors are also looking at your credit, they're looking at capacity. This refers to your income and ability to repay. They're looking at credit history. As we said on the report, it shows history, criminal background. So they're looking for all these factors. They're looking for capital and they're looking for collateral. Now, credit history is your score and your report. All these other factors come together to help creditors understand and look at you as an overall financial, I guess, your financial profile.
Yeah, so if your financial capacity, or if you're a financially sound individual, right? You're a good person to lend to and work with.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's not that these other factors are part of your credit. It's just that lenders are looking at your credit as one aspect of those 5 C's.
Yes. Now, in terms of, we touched on some of this earlier. How do you improve your credit? Automate your bills. Number one thing you can do, just automate your bills. So, you're earning a salary, and sometimes, where you're self-employed or you have, part-time work and so on, sometimes it feels like you may not feel comfortable automating. But if you build up a bit of a reserve in your account, and you know that you're going to manage your credit responsibly and you're not going to overspend, automating your bills and automating your credit is something that will help you to manage it without being late. And so the automation really helps to deal with the late payments issue. And that's one of the tools you can use to definitely reduce any late payments. We're in such a digital age, almost everything can be automated at this point. And one of the ways to automate, you can have the company automatically do it, or you can just make automatic payments from your account to your credit cards or to your bills yourself. So you can do it either like them automatically sucking it out, or you actually automatically making pre-authorized payments to those bills. So there's 2 ways to do it. Definitely pay before the due date. One of the things we recommend, even if you're automating things, is to make sure you know your due dates and pay a day or 2 before. Sometimes payments take a day or 2, or if the dates fall on a weekend, it may just, creditors I find right now are not super sensitive if they get it on the day of, but In some cases, they might be, and so it may show a ding that you're late. So to avoid that late payment, pay it a day early. And definitely, if you are going to be late, recognizing that if you're going to be late, within the first 30 days is one level of a ding, 60 days is another, 90 days is a problem. And then you start maybe taking that debt and moving it from your, say, if it's your phone company or any of your debtors, it moves from them, and they start taking action towards potentially sending your file to a collections
Collection
agency.
agency.
And once that process starts happening, then it becomes more of a challenge, because on top of any interest that you may be charged for late payments, now going to a collections agency is now an added layer of cost to you, because now it puts on more debt on you. So definitely avoiding late payments is important, but definitely if it's going to go 30, 60, 90 days, try to resolve it, or at least make some of the payments as much as you can. And by all means, stop using the credit. If you can stop using the credit, stop using it, because then you help to stem the tide of what's happening to your credit.
So Kemba, there's a question, what is the impact to your credit when you close the credit card account? And I mean, it's not that it's dropping your score or reducing your score. I mean, I probably should have absolutely not closed that credit card that I had because I had it for so long, but I was just fed up with the company. And the errors that occurred on it, they could have stopped it. So I closed it. The impact is that I've lost that history. That's years. I had that card, I would say probably almost 20 years. And that type of history is good to have on your credit, because it does give you, improve your score. And it also shows lenders that, you know, you have longstanding
Reliability and stuff.
yeah, reliability. So it does impact, but I mean, it's one card that I closed. So I'm not recommending that you just close them because you get ticked off, but Andrea does do that. It's just kind of like, well, if you won't absorb the cost, then, and I have to pay that $6, because sometimes that's how petty I might get.
And
I'm done.
The thing is that, you know, when you have any credit card or loan that you've had for a long time, that helps build your credit history. But maybe you have other things on your credit that are also building your credit history. So closing one of them is not going to impact you unduly. But if you have one thing only that has a long history, and that's your only thing that you have that has a long history, if you close it, then you're kind of shutting down that history. It does remain on your report even after it's closed, but you want to make sure that you have other things to continue that building of the history and maintaining the history. You don't want to just close off everything and have nothing, because then that'll impact your ability to continue to maintain a score. Some of the apps we suggest that you use are Borrowell, Credit Karma, and now a lot of the banks have online portals where you can check your credit. One thing we'll say about the apps is the apps will give you maybe a high level summary. They'll give you a list of stuff you have outstanding, but it is a good idea periodically, say annually, or, you know, if you're using the apps, it feels like you don't necessarily have to, but if you order your full report, there may be things on your full report that aren't showing in certain apps. So you want to maybe do that just to make sure your credit is squeaky clean, or if there's anything to be fixed, you know what it is. Something may be showing up that you weren't aware of. One of the things that was funny is, for me a couple of years ago, is that they kept saying to me when I'd apply for credit is that your birthday is not the right day on your credit report on Equifax. And I was like, really? And I literally had to write Equifax a letter to get my birthday corrected on that report. My name is not that common. Unlike Andrea, I don't have a name that shows up a lot. And so it was unusual that I had.
It's because I got married and took on Williams. Okay, Andrea is common and Williams is common, but my maiden name, Peart, is not as common. So I've personally tried, and I know that it wasn't a justifiable reason to my husband to keep Peart. So what I have tried to do is keep Peart Williams because it's not as common.
It is common.
And I mean, literally Williams is common so that my lawyer will call me and say, hey, Andrew, did you buy another property? Because I have something right here that says Andrew. Well, I'm like, no, not me. Can you make sure that it's not me? The birth dates and all the other stuff shouldn't match.
If you have any name that you have, somebody could potentially, do something to affect your credit and make a fraudulent claim on your credit. But when you have a common name, like my husband's name is Michael Williams. Let me tell you, we have 4 Michael Williams in just our family. So there's a lot. So especially when you have a common name, it's important to definitely monitor your credit because that could happen where somebody puts something on your credit that is not you. And so you want to make sure you're keeping an eye on it. There are services you could apply to that will monitor your credit. So for example, but they do cost. So you want to make sure you really need it if you're going to do that. Avoid too many credit inquiries in a short period of time. So if you're shopping around for a phone, don't sign up here, sign up there, sign up there. Just make sure you're signing up at the very last one that you really want to get.
But do we have the links for, because I just thought to get your credit history, I just go to TransUnion and because someone's asking, can you post the links? And I just go to TransUnion and Equifax to just make the requests.
Actually, yes, we do have the links and we did send out a couple emails for those who signed up early on to share how to pull your credit report. And that would be.
You can just put the links in the chat tonight.
Oh, I don't have them right here. So, but we will send them out after.
Okay. And also there is no magical number for the number of credit cards that are reasonable to have. It's just not having any at all is detrimental in creating a credit history and score. So if you have 2 or 3 and you're doing it well, that's great. If you have 10 and you're doing it well, that's also great. So I think it's, important that you just make sure that you're doing well with the ones that you have rather than not having any at all. Because not having it all is negative, right? Having it's positive. And having too many and not managing them is also negative.
Yeah, sorry, somebody had a question?
Yeah, I have a question, Jada. I was wondering, so if you have something like a prepaid Visa, because I know some people who do that, does that equally help you improve your credit like a regular credit card? Because there's like a online financial institution called Coho, and it's a prepaid Visa. They have other services that can help you improve your credit. But I was wondering, does that hold the same weight as a regular credit card from any financial institution like TD or?
So in terms of, we don't have the inside track on the actual credit bureau and how they would rate any, say, the big 5 banks versus a credit bureau versus Coho versus, but they do consider the mix of credit that you have, the types of credit that you have. So if Coho is reporting on your payment history and reporting, it is adding to your credit history and it is adding to your credibility and your score. So if that's something you can do, yeah, we would say to do it, but we're not familiar with Coho specifically to say how that's handled.
And a lot of times, Jada, the prepaid option that you speak of, it's for someone who is not able to get credit yet or is just starting to rebuild their credit. This is what they do to help get started because it will be reported to the bureau and it helps give you that, rebuilding opportunity. But it isn't the ideal way. You should be with a fairly big and reputable company that eventually, after the time period that you have to, because sometimes when you've done a bankruptcy, to come back, it takes that prepaid Visa or that prepaid option to get started again. And so it takes time before you can actually begin to open credit cards with those large providers again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so because we're sort of winding down to time, I'm gonna go through the next bit. Sorry, Jada, you had another question?
No, I just had one more question. So just because like I hear about this often, so is unsecured line of credit, I often have people ask me at the bank, like they want to apply for an unsecured line of credit, but they're just, not unsecured, secured. So they asked me, like, is that bad? Like, how does the credit bureau see people who, or see somebody who's wanting an unsecured line of credit or needing that?
So an unsecured line of credit just means that the bank decides whether or not to lend you that money based on your credibility and your ability to pay back, and what they know of you in terms of your credit score and maybe your income and so on, because you have nothing to secure it. Say, if you walk away from that debt, the bank just doesn't have a lot to come back to you to collect on. A secured line of credit would be charged against, say, your home or some asset that you have. And so that security means that if you default on that, paying that secured line of credit back, they can now come and take that asset that you have. So the security just allows them to say, we have some protection if this person isn't able to pay. That's why usually secured lines of credit would be higher in terms of value, and whereas unsecured lines of credit would be lower in terms of value and potentially higher in terms of credit interest rates and so on. So it's really just a tool that the bank can make a decision. If you have good credit, they're willing to lend you an unsecured line of credit because they feel that you are going to pay it back. Whereas if you don't have good credit, they're unlikely to give you unsecured credit.
I think you said it reversed or said it a little messed up there, Kimba, but the secured line of credit, they're willing to give you when they see you as a good client and a good prospect, and you have assets to secure against.
Yes.
And oftentimes that amount could be very large, as well as the interest rate is very low, while the unsecured tends to be smaller amounts of like lending that they'll offer to you, and the rates will sometimes be much higher than a secured. So it's you're getting favorable treatment when you get secured lines of credit compared to unsecured.
That's correct.
Okay.
So in
Okay,
terms
yeah,
of,
thanks
So
answering
for
that.
individuals looking for credit, a secured line of credit is the ideal way to go. It's going to be less costly to you, and you'll get larger amounts so that you can then use it to invest in something that you're doing for yourself and your family.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so in terms of getting and improving your credit, sometimes when you have a lot of outstanding credit, there's two ways to tackle debt. You can pay the highest interest debt first, and that is, I think, the most cost effective because you're basically tackling what's costing you the most first. Sometimes when credit is really just overwhelming and it feels like a challenge and a task, paying your smallest debts first is more like you feel like you're being successful because you paid off one. Yes, it was a $500 debt. I paid that one off. Now I'm going to tackle the $2,000 debt, or I'm going to tackle. And so, or, there's a third way, which I don't mention here. You can put a little bit on all of them at the same time, but sometimes it just makes sense to get rid of, one at a time, because you can maybe put larger sums, like just take all the money and put it on one and just make the minimum payments to the other. And that way it's an easy way to, not easy, but it is a good way to start paying off old debts to help improve your credit.
You can also stack it though, Kemba. So even what you're saying there is either way is good. I don't know that the highest is always the best way. But absolutely, if you're paying off, and even if it's a smaller debt that you're paying off and the rate is lower, just take the difference that you've say freed up that $200 a month that you were formerly paying to carry it or associated with the payment, and just add it to the other higher paying, higher amount. And that we refer to that as debt stacking. And if you start to stack it, so as one is paid off, take the difference that you were originally paying on that one, add it to the next, and so on until you have them all paid off. Because some people, it's not just 2 or 3 that they have, they may have 8 to 10. And you can expedite the time frame that you're in debt for.
Yeah. So
and still all around safe.
That's true. So another thing you can do is you can negotiate with creditors. So if you have large outstanding debts, you can actually call up your creditors. For the most part, creditors want you to pay. So if you're calling them, they're going to be really accommodating or work with you. They generally don't want to chase you away if you're calling to pay. if they have to chase you down, they might be a little more rough. And so if you want to try and figure out how you can pay them back and resolve certain debts on your credit, you can just call them up and ask them, you know, you want to pay them off, what can they do? Is there any of the interest that they can forgive, or, you know, and just work with them to help get the debt cleared. Close off non-essentials. And I know we were talking about how closing off certain, you know, cards and so on may impact your credit, but if you're working to improve bad credit, it may be a good idea for a time to close off what you can put aside and not use anymore, so that you can get your credit under control. Another way to do is to pay with cash. So if you have large outstanding debts and you want to start tackling it, for your living expenses, just pay with the cash that you have. And that way you sort of, it helps you to live within your means a bit better and not overutilize your credit and maybe make the problem even worse. So paying with cash is one way to go. And then there's also consolidating debt. So you can consolidate debt to help bring down your payment and pay out the bigger, higher interest debt with maybe a more manageable interest rate, and pay down just one loan to help keep it less complicated for you, and more manageable, where, you know, I have to pay, you know, $250 every month to help get rid of this debt in 2 years, or whatever that time frame is. But that's something you can also do. We do have an ebook which is helpful and has a lot more tips than what we shared tonight, that will help you learn more about your credit, get lots more tips in terms of helping to manage your credit. It's only $10.99, and tonight, if you're interested in purchasing it, you can also get it for $5 off. So it's a super deal to get some more information about managing and keeping your credit under control. So we'll share those links as well if that's something you'd like to do. Andrea, do you want to share also about our other offering?
Sure. I think I left the, I have no idea where you are anymore. I've somehow left the meeting. Sorry.
Oh, well, we can still hear you, so I can share. So in
Yeah, go
terms
ahead.
of, we do have a course that we offer as well in terms of just helping you build and grow. And it's offered in the form of accelerated sessions where you learn to shape your mindset and your plan for investing in real estate, how to leverage your income, your capital, and your credit to build wealth. We also share about partnering, joint ventures, because we find that, you know, if you don't have all the capital yourself, one of the biggest ways that you can invest in real estate or buy property is to partner with others. We also help you understand the property analysis and locations to buy, and that process of buying, making offers, and closing in a competitive market. So we cover lots of information in there that helps if you are interested in using your credit and using the tools, that superpower that you have to now build wealth and grow to that next stage. As we mentioned, we also have the Facebook group, so we'd love to see you in there. We are so happy that so many of you joined and asking questions and participating in the session. So we'd love to meet you and get to know you. I saw Chuck was saying he joined, so we'll have a few people who've been here tonight in there. So if you want to be part of a community that wants to and thinks about building wealth, we'll welcome you in our Facebook group. This is one of the gentlemen who did our course recently. He was very appreciative, and he's actually closing on a property very shortly.
My wife and I recently joined the Kean Real Estate Group's Secrets to Success program. Reason being, we want to purchase our first investment property and just didn't know where to start. So Kemba and Andrea have the expertise. We've been able to learn quite a bit from them, and we're on our way to purchasing our first investment property. We've got a pre-approval lined up, and through this program, we've been able to come up with some creative ideas, things that we wouldn't have even thought of on our own. For example, purchasing a real estate property outside of Ontario. That's something that it looks like we're actually going to do now and start building our portfolio. If you're interested in purchasing investment property, this is the way to go. You'll definitely get your return on investment with the Secrets to Success program.
And check, they've now done that. I believe we're waiting for the final details because they're closing shortly, but I believe that was in Nova Scotia.
Yes, I'm very proud of them. I feel like a proud
Yeah.
mama.
Yes. And they're very excited.
Oh, sorry, I skipped that one, but this is the course is coming up this weekend,
This
actually. So
Friday.
we have Friday, Saturday, and the following weekend, Friday, Saturday, where we will be covering all those items we just mentioned in terms of just, helping to show you how you can do it yourself.
Mhm.
Here's another lovely lady
I
who
took
joined
the
us.
Secrets to Success in Real Estate course through Kean Real Estate Group because my husband and I are thinking of purchasing our first investment property. They taught us how to analyze properties, various ways we could fund our investment, and also how to pick great tenants. I would definitely recommend this course to anyone who's not only looking for investment properties, but also looking for their own personal property.
Yeah, some awesome folks have joined us and they're doing
Mhm.
amazing things.
And we're still working together on their solution, but their goal is to not just buy one investment property, but multiple. And so that's going to happen.
Yes. And so, we cover some of the things we mentioned, unconventional ways to home ownership, fixing your credit, securing your deposit, locations to buy, buying and getting cash flow. So that's, how to analyze the properties, successful partnerships, establishing your real estate team. That's a huge thing too. You need to have the right partners to be able to get into real estate. The course is actually, we've been offering this course at, I think, $11.97, and now we're offering it at $2.97 because we want to get a full session at the end of the year. And so hopefully you will join us this week. We'll also send this code out if you're interested in purchasing the course. You're welcome to. We'll send you the link, and hopefully it'll teach you how to get yourself an investment property or your first property. I think we have one giveaway. Andrea, do you want to do the giveaway?
Sure. I'm not sure. What are we doing for the giveaway? Is it a question that we ask and get the answer?
Yeah. So the
Someone
question,
asked, do we know any companies that can help you clean up and repair your credit and rebuild your credit? We'd help you do that too. We absolutely can help you do that. And depending on, I guess, how much work you need, we can also refer.
Abby will
Oh
send
wait,
you.
that was the
Sorry?
I thought that was the question. I thought you were asking.
Oh,
the
no, I
question.
apologize. No, good thing. Good. Thank you, though. Credit Karma and Borwell, they're actually sites that you can use to look and monitor your credit, right? They actually don't usually help
Oh, okay.
do the repair and stuff like that. But no, sorry, Kemba, should we ask a question?
Yes.
Okay.
So
So
what-
I can ask a very simple and easy one because I think we're at our time.
Yes.
And so for the first person who types the answer successfully in the chat, we will award the course to. Is that what we want to do?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have the question ready in my head. And if you can, because we're only doing one, if you can type it in and, we don't care, spelling is not so important, but the two different bureaus that track your credit, if you can type those two bureaus that we discussed in this conversation right now together. Sorry, I don't know, I see a lot fast. So I think the first
Donna
person,
Lee.
yes.
Donna Lee. Woo woo. Donna Lee.
Rowe.
I'm gonna open up the
Equifax and Trends will accept it.
and you were pretty quick, but Donna Lee beat you there.
Yes. So
Donna Lee, so we'll reach out to you after the session to get you into the course. So guys, we really appreciate the time.
Kemba, just before you finish, Abby asked you to show again the slides with the dates of the course.
Oh, sure, yes. Sorry, I'm trying to get this on. one. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see.
I was trying to check out.
Oh, Donnelly says she can't hear.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
So, but we, hopefully, Donnelly, you've provided, you can send a direct message to us. I see it shows here that I'm just wondering if you actually sent us one because I can't see it. But you can send me a direct message with the contact details for us to get you set up for that course this weekend. But
Yeah. Okay, guys, so it was amazing having you all. We really appreciate the time you spent with us. We do hope that you got some value out of it, that you learned something, that you can improve your credit or just maintain your credit, or even if you're interested in building some wealth in real estate, we are very happy to help you with that. So let us know.
and so for the answer, like, I mean, absolutely, we'll share with you different places that you can invest that are good places to generate, depending on what you want. If it's equity that you want to appreciate, to have properties that appreciate, or we can show you how to find good cash flowing properties. We do talk about that in the course, but we also can provide that information in our Facebook groups. Someone asked, and I would say that it's definitely not the GTA to find great entry-level property prices or even cash flowing properties. I would say a minimum of 2 hours away from Toronto area to get those cash flowing properties, you know. So, but to name a few, we can still say Kingston is a place. If you're going east, if you're going west, I would say London is another great place. If you're going southwest, you know, there's still opportunities in St. Catharines, Niagara Falls. So there are definitely a lot of places. It's just definitely not going to be right here in the Toronto area or Brampton, Mississauga, Vaughan, Durham.
Yeah, those are very high.
They're very high. I was just looking at the average prices in all of them, and I would say that there was none really less than 700,000. They were all typically in the $1 million range or greater, especially when we're speaking to detached homes.
Okay, guys, well, have a wonderful evening. If anybody has questions from this session, please feel free to email us. We will share our email address and contact details as well in the follow-up email, and we'll share a link to the replay as well. So if anyone you know could use the information, send it along.
We'll also host this event again in 2022 so that you can absolutely, you know, come in again if you got good value or you know of someone else that can use it, and we can help you also rebuild your credit or repair or even maintain or even use it for good purposes like acquiring properties.
Yes.
Okay, thanks everyone. Good night.